Unique people leading unique lives shape and inform Iowa City. This community is enhanced by these women and men who live in our midst, working, teaching, creating. Welcome to a series of conversations with people who have stories to tell. Join my guests and me, Ellen Buchanan, in a series of interviews called One of a Kind. My guest on One of a Kind is Steve Atkins. Steve served as the Iowa City Manager for 21 years, retiring August 1st, 2007. According to the former mayor, Ernie Lehman, Atkins left the city at the top of its game. Known for his institutional knowledge, management experience, and professionalism, 7 mayors served under his term in his tenure. Steve Atkins Day was declared by the city on July 27, 2007. Thanks to his leadership, the financial health of the city is excellent and the infrastructure of water, sewer, and streets is in great shape. Steve and his wife, Judy, raised their daughter, April, in Iowa City, and they have 1 grandchild. Welcome, Steve, to One of a Kind.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your story begins, I read, in Dayton, Ohio in 1945. You grew up like kind of at the end of World War II, and you were a son of a firefighter.
Right.
How was that for you?
Well, it certainly has something to do with my interest in the career that I chose. Knowing the town, a lot of folks, Dayton, Ohio is an old factory town, a lot of industry. And fire service there was not as you would expect it to be in a lot of other communities. There were some rather dangerous circumstances my father experienced as a firefighter. These large warehouses and, again, our large industries can provide some really kind of dangerous circumstances. It always made you just a little bit nervous, but also very appreciative of people who dedicate themselves to public life. But it was different because your dad's gone 24 hours, then comes back. And then 24 hours later goes away again. It's gone the whole time. It's not like mom and pop who come home at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the evening.
So you have,
he
comes home and you have to, things have to shift.
And he could be a kind of a contrary sort of a guy, so we always planned things when he was on duty, so my brother and sister and I would get things done that we wanted done when he wasn't around.
Now, you have a brother and a sister. Did they go into public government service?
My brother retired as a firefighter from Dayton many, many years ago, and I have a younger sister. Susie graduated from Ohio University and was in the Foreign Service. She and her husband were both in the Foreign Service and have lived Chile, El Salvador, Luxembourg, Bolivia. I think that there's a couple more in there somewhere, but that was their lifestyle. And so I would go 4 and 5, 6 years without seeing my sister, even though I remain very close to her today.
Is she back in the States now?
They're back in the States today, and they've retired. They just retired.
And I read in the research of AK Tra that you put yourself through college. You worked in a lot of jobs.
Yes,
and
I did.
You went to, let's see, Dayton University.
University of Dayton, which was it's a Marianist, it's a Catholic college. It's a school of about 10, 12,000 students. Has a full range of academic programs. And it just, the way it worked out, as being a commuter, just worked out financially for me. They always gave you, there were certain benefits to being again, a commuter student. And I got both my bachelor's and master's degree from the University of Dayton.
And was it because your dad was working for the city, or what made you decide to go into government?
What made me decide to go into government was a very practical kind of decision. And that was, I left high school, went to a year of college, ran out of money, so couldn't go back. So I went to working, this is going to sound really hokey, in the mailroom at the City Hall in Dayton, Ohio. And of course, in the mailroom, you get to know everybody because you're in every office. And I got just to know the folks and that experience led me, like, this is kind of an interesting sort of a career. So I pushed my major toward political science. And with that, sort of the rest is sort of history. I got my first full-time job with the city of Dayton, Ohio, working in the city manager's office. And from that point on, well, we'll talk about that.
Yes,
yeah.
and you went on to be assistant city manager and manager in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Illinois.
Okay,
Is
you're
that
not
right?
done yet. California.
In California?
And Connecticut.
And
So you got to get them all.
okay, all right, 5 different places.
Yeah, it was, folks sometimes don't understand the nature of the career. If you're an accountant, you can be, and I please all the accountants, I'm not speaking disparagingly, but an
No.
accountant can serve in any community. Remember, in Iowa City, there's only one city manager. And if you want to change your career, go do something else in another community, that truly means pack up and off to another community.
Mm-hmm.
Well, career building works the same way. Assistant, and you move your way up. You've got to be willing to move.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously got here and got settled and spent
In 21
21 years.
Well, I talked to
kinda
Ernie
blew that
Lehman
theory.
the other day. He said that is so unusual.
It is.
Usually city managers last maybe 4, 5
Well, when
years.
you use the word last, that's always one that makes you swallow kind of hard.
But that's true.
Usually serve, I like
Well,
the word.
all right, serve
Okay.
for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
And you were here 21 years.
I came at a time when, in my own personal circumstances, my daughter was going to start school. I was ready for a longer-term commitment in the sense of I like college towns. I had some work experience in them. And when you make those kinds of decisions, and quite frankly, I like the place. And I mean, other than a few bumps in the road, things have gone pretty well in the last 21 years. And so why move on?
Who was the mayor when you first came?
Bill
here?
Ambrisco.
Bill Ambrisco.
My employment agreement has Bill, and I tell it, Bill Ambrisco's name on it. He was the mayor at
He
the
was
time.
the mayor.
Yeah.
And then, do you remember the 7 that you
Oh, of course.
name them? Would you? For the
Okay, Bill
folks?
Ambrisco, John McDonald, Ernie Lehman, Ross Wilburn, Susan Horowitz, and who else?
That's 5.
Oh, and Darrell Courtney.
And wow,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah, it is kind of amazing.
You provided the continuity these last 21 years, did you not?
Well, that's one of the important things about the whole position of city manager, that folks, there has to be, remember the position is not substantially different than a school superintendent. One of the things that I can do, councils can change, and that's okay. That's part of the process. Democratic process says we're going to put new faces on there. But my job, a good bit of it was, okay, now we have a new group. You're interested in taking this direction. Here's where we've been. Here's where we were planning to go, so that you can try to make it reasonably seamless. The policies of the city will change. I mean, you go from a council dominated, say, by the business community, to someone dominated by, human service agent. I mean, whatever the circumstances might be, each of them are going to view the community differently. And it's important for me, one, is to be very forthright, lay it out for them. Here's where we are, here's the current policy. And if 4 of them say, we don't like it, we want to change it, that's perfectly within your prerogative. Here's the consequences. And I think that's one of the real important elements of making, as a successful city manager, is being willing to work with these really disparate groups, because they can be all over the lot on you.
I know. I know.
Yeah, I know.
I've read the paper.
You've been around long enough.
I've been knocking at your door a few times.
Yes,
And you've had to, do you think you have tough skin? Do you have thick skin?
I think I can take a hit pretty good. But I don't think I'm thick-skinned, because it hurts. I mean, there are people that will come. It's like the microphone at a city council meeting. Anybody at virtually any time can come to the microphone and say anything. One of the things that they don't have to be is right. Their information could be so far afield of what's the real world. And sometimes that criticism, it hurts. And you have to accept it, and you have to move on, because that's kind of the nature of the job.
Well, you've had to say yes to people, and you've said to say no to people.
Yeah, you do.
And
Yeah, you do. And a lot of times folks, well, and in public life, you know, most everybody can do it better than you and me anyway, so I have to play along with that a little bit.
Sure. What do you consider were your greatest strengths as city manager?
I was very forthright, and if I said something, that's the way it was, in the sense of not in the matter of ordering people around, but no, here's the circumstances, here's how we got here, here's the consequences of making those changes. And I think people could walk away with some comfort. Okay, I don't like it. I want to change it, but at least I understand the base.
You did your homework.
Yeah. I've never been accused of not doing my homework. Never accused of that. Yeah.
What do you think your legacy will be for the 21 years?
Oh, I think one of the important things is the consistency that we saw, or I was involved at a time when there was virtually unprecedented growth going on in the community. And we managed to do it, I think, the right way. It was not extreme. We didn't get overwhelmed. We got our schools built. I mean, part of what goes on in a community is a relationship amongst all the governments. We were able to provide the safety net services, but at the same time, water lines got built, sewer got treated, airport runways got extended. I mean, all the kind of things that you do to address those issues of growth got done. And I feel pretty good about that. If nobody remembers me for anything other than, didn't they have during that day, a couple of those kind of things, I'm fine with that. Just fine with it. A lot of little victories are more important to me than the biggies.
Biggies.
Yeah.
So where do you think the biggest, for people who are new to Iowa City or just moved here to Iowa City in these last 20 years, where has the growth been in your eyes as the administrator?
Well, first of all, while it's one of the more difficult policy issues, we have done a reasonably good job of providing a variety of housing. I mean, that is encouraging development that provides a variety. I think that's important. Secondly, we haven't forgotten sort of who we are, and that there are people out there that are a little less fortunate, and that we do our best to deal with those issues. And I think we also are a community that has fun. We don't say that to ourselves enough. I mean, but Friday night concerts and new recreation centers, those are fun things. And they're a drain on your tax bill? Absolutely.
Sure.
Would you want to get rid of them? Not a chance. Not a chance. And I think having some fun also is part of the underlying character of this community.
And look, in the park, the Riverside, Shakespeare Theater in the park?
Shakespeare Theater, Scanlon Gym, new swimming pools, unprecedented growth in our number of acres. Been to Hickory Hill Park lately. You can get yourself lost in a forest in the middle of an urban area. I mean, those are kind of things those are fun. And do they cost some money? Yes, they do. But I think the sort of the soul of the community said, that's what I want for my community, that's what I want for me, and that's what I want for my kids. And when you think about it from that perspective, this is really a good place.
How do you've had to work, of course, closely with the university. I mean, we're just,
Sure.
like two fingers like this. How did you feel you dealt with that, you and your administration?
I think we dealt with it very well. First of all, being here a long time, many of my friends are university people, friends. I mean, outside of work. And you know these people in both their professional capacity, but I also know them as my friends. That makes it a lot easier to talk to them. The university is certainly the foundation of what this community is all about. But we had an interesting debate amongst the staff once, I can't even remember when, a number of years ago, because folks were very quick to call us a college town. And you start nodding your head, like. But then someone, and I couldn't tell you to this day who it was, we were discussing this person said, are we a town with a college? And it's a different view. The university is certainly the economic foundation, political, social, and economic foundation. But if you look statistically at our census numbers, private employment is growing much more rapidly, which says that the diversity in our economy goes a long way to kind of securing what we want this community to be. and we don't sort of have all of our eggs, excuse me for being trite, all the eggs in the university basket.
Right.
And we know that university is going to be there, and it's certainly going to be the foundation. But we need to provide the private employment opportunities just as much. And I think we've done that. I feel good about that.
Good. How do you feel about the downtown now?
Oh,
Since
you know,
in
I always,
21 years.
Oh, you know, you see it. Downtown will never be everything that everybody wants it to be. We all view it differently. And particularly when it gets into economic arguments. They will argue that the downtown is no longer the economic center of the community. And I said, okay, well, what do you mean? That's not okay. I mean, you got to realize the Coral Ridge Mall and all that development is strictly retail, economic growth and development. But tell me where you have an environment where there are churches, seats of government, business offices, housing, retail, social, commercial, cultural, all of those kind of things occur in a downtown. It's not meant to compete with Coral Ridge Mall. It never was, and it never will. And those folks that are critics of downtown, it's easy because we have that tremendous diversity of what's there. But I mean, just look around at the investment, look at the building we're sitting in. And those kinds of things go a long way to helping secure a point of focus. When you bring friends into your community, come to see Ellen, and they say, well, show us your town. Where'd you go?
Oh, downtown. Show them his life.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And maybe complaining all the way downtown. It's not this, not that, not that. People get there and went, this is really a cool environment.
They love it.
Yeah, and I think
and you can walk you can walk downtown.
Yes, and that has to do with just, again, that underlying soul, the character of our community.
Well, I'm biased, but I always thought
That's okay,
the public library is the soul of our community. It's the heart of the community.
Now that I don't work for the government anymore, I can comment on it. So
yeah, that's right. Looking back in the 21 years, and we're going to look forward next, but looking back, as you said, there were ups and downs and great times and not such great times. What do you feel were the most challenging times, the most difficult times for you as the administrator?
Oh, natural disasters have a way of bringing communities together and beating it up at the same time. The floods of '93 were a real pain. And a lot of folks, because there's a lot of us who are all pretty fat and happy sitting at home that things were just fine. The most we may have gotten is our feet wet. A lot of folks lost a lot. Then in '98 with the windstorms. I mean, in '06 when we had the tornado. Those things alter how you do business as a local government.
Well, explain that, the pressure on the government.
The pressure is we are expected, let me just use an example, to pave the streets. We know in 21 years, I can tell you that those 3 natural disasters set us back at least a year, if not 2, with respect to routine maintenance. And folks say, well, why? I said, because we were busy picking up your branches, pumping the water out of the streets, cleaning up the messes. That meant that the routine work of the city government was not going to get done that year because we were going to be too busy cleaning up and doing other, but we have to get that done. The commerce of the city forces us to do that because when people wake up in the morning and they see the tree laying in the middle of the street, they have an expectation that it's going to go away pretty soon, isn't it? Yeah, it is. But we're not going to get your street paved this year either. And I think that those things throw things out of balance. Even though I think as a city government we respond remarkably well. I particularly was proud of our folks after the tornado. I mean, we were on top of that night. And so, but our resources then were busy. The same people that are picking up the trees are not paving the streets. And so those things throw things out of balance. We recover, but there is just a little, again, balance is the only word, is that the community does get a little askew. Things get a little crazy for a while. But there's an expectation that the government will respond, and we've done that. And I feel very good about that. I'm proud of that.
How about that terrible tragedy of the Eric Shaw. Was that a difficult?
Oh, it was a very
terrible for
difficult
you?
time because I mean,
And
at the
explain that to
Yeah.
the listeners who maybe are, as I said, are new to Iowa
Eric
City.
Shaw, an innocent individual, was shot and killed by an Iowa City police officer investigating a burglary, or thought to be a burglary. It was a terrible, terrible tragedy, and any loss of life is certainly that. The community responded in a variety of ways. There were those that were very supportive, recognizing that it was a tragedy. There were those that I thought took advantage of the circumstances. And there'll be people who'll be very mad at me for saying that. Quite frankly, I don't care. Because there were things said and people were hurt that didn't deserve that. It was a tragedy. It has changed how we police the city. But many of our police officers that are on the department now really have very little knowledge of all that. Oh yeah, I know about that, I read about that. And I think those kinds of things put a pressure on the city. There begins to be a little feeding frenzy. And the community then is out of balance. And it was just something that it really touches you. I mean, I can't comprehend losing a child. Nothing. Just, I mean, even as an adult. And it was just something that we had to get through, and we have.
What changed? You said the police department. How did they change?
They
since
will
that?
be. I said there's going to be an attention called to you, a standard of performance applied to you that most citizens would never even apply to themselves. I could never perform, but I expect you to now, because everything is so obvious. It's so out there. And it just has a lot to do with the young men and women that we recruit for our police department. That you're
So
going to
something positive, excuse me,
Oh, I
came
think
out
so.
of this.
I think so too. I think so too. But it's just you're going to be very high profile. And if you don't want to be high profile, then you don't want to be a police officer here. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
True. Well, speaking on something a bit more up.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, okay. Under your watch, we have this recycling, and
We did good at that.
that wonderful.
We
that,
did really good.
Was that hard to pass and get through?
Yeah, you know, you got to. One of the wonderful things about garbage collection, just think about it. You go to
So
work.
important.
You go to work in the morning. You set it at the curb. You come home. It's gone.
I know.
Now, Ellen, where is it? I don't know. It's just gone, and that's what I want it to be. And I think that's one of the better services that we provide. And
I
we
do
were
too.
able to, split off the yard waste, split off the recycling. We as a community do a lot of tub thumping about, how environmentally conscientious we are. But we're not as good at recycling as we could be.
Really?
No, we're not. I imagine we're probably less than 50%.
Really?
Yeah. And there are a lot of folks that just simply don't want to play. Now, that's just simply the way it is. But we've done a really pretty good job. We have it in place opportunities for you to participate as a recycler just about as much as you want to. Now, if you don't want to, I can't really make you.
Sure.
I guess you could probably find some sort of a tax I could go after you with, but that's not going to accomplish
I
anything.
think, being in other communities, I think this is
Yeah, we do
quite
well.
ahead of the curve.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. But we could do a lot better. A lot better.
Well, we'll see what.
Keep pounding away on it.
So tell me, this
Yeah.
next city manager that's going to be coming down
Yeah.
and hired, what do you think the big issues or some of the issues he or she will be facing?
I think sustaining our growth in a moderate, thoughtful, well-planned fashion is going to be important. The city's finances will come under even more scrutiny. I mean, really, I understand all the philosophical opposition, but there are so many things we could do if we could pass a sales tax. So many things that could be done. I know all the philosophical arguments about it, but the real bottom line is we could be reducing property taxes, and we could still have resources above and beyond what we have now to do some really good things. And it's going to be difficult for the new manager because there's an expectation that we are often all things to all people. and you just can't do it. You just can't do it. And plus, it's the kind of town that, there's really nothing ever gets done around here that's easy. We just kind of work at beating on each other about it. And after we're all done, if we've worn each other out, okay, let's build the library. Or something such as that. We have this notion of, I don't know what it is, we just sort of wear each other out, regardless of what side you're on.
That's true.
And it's almost like arguing with your brothers and say, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Oh, okay, fine.
Okay.
And then something gets done.
Yes.
And good things get done.
It certainly did. It certainly did in the last 21 years.
Yeah,
Now,
well,
I heard at your retirement party that you were presented by the mayor, Ross Wilbur,
Yes.
a bicycle.
Yes.
Is this something you're going to go off on our wonderful trails of?
No, I'm not going to do all of those things.
You're
but
not.
I remember when Ross brought it out, and I'm standing there sort of dumbstruck. The first thing I said to him was, well, where's the motor? And he pointed at me like, you're it. No, it was something I did not expect. I use it on a regular basis.
That's great.
I have to admit that I've done a couple of 6, 8, 10 miles. I got a little saddle sore, so I'm going to have to get used to it. But it was a fun gift, and I do use it, and I'm really flattered by it.
Well, it was a special thing to have a day named after you.
Oh, yeah.
And I read that we're not talking the word retirement. We're talking about a different pace. And before this interview, you said that you just have more time to decide what you're going to do next.
You do. And I don't know really how to describe it to folks that are contemplating retirement. There's just a lot of things that you can choose to do that you couldn't before. I can speak about things often that I didn't have to, I couldn't before. Your responsibility level has changed. Like, I'm not responsible for that anymore. I'm concerned about it as a citizen.
Do you feel a little lighter?
Yeah, you do. Lighter's a good
lighter.
word. It's a good word.
A little lighter.
Yeah.
You don't have all those big issues on your shoulders.
I remember running into someone at the grocery store, and they recognized me. It's one of those where they sort of like, is that? Well, I hope you're enjoying your retirement. I said, I really am. I said, I don't do that anymore, remember? But now, what can I do to help you out? I said, this is who you want to call.
That's great.
Well, they were ready to go, and I don't wear that anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what books are by your bedside? What do you like to read?
I'm a big reader on American history, and I'm currently reading Founding Mothers, which is really an excellent book about women in the American Revolution, the wives of our founding fathers, wives and other women. It's a fascinating book. I mean, until you've read about Abigail Adams, John Adams' wife, you haven't really lived. This
Founding Mothers.
Founding Mothers. Cokie Roberts wrote it.
Oh,
and I'm also reading a book called Fallen Founder, which is about Aaron Burr. And if it's American history, you can usually get my attention. And those are, the Civil War era. I like to read there's a book out, I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, it's about Abraham Lincoln's political philosophies during the time that he was guiding us through the Civil War. And that's what I really enjoy reading.
And you must have some time to spend with your granddaughter.
Granddaughter, Olivia Kay.
Olivia Kay.
2 years old.
Oh.
Full of it.
Full of it.
Yeah, and it is a real kick.
Yeah.
You know that things have gone pretty well when you take a look and you say, oh, there you go. I mean, and I'm part of her life.
Sure.
And doesn't know it, but she's a big part of mine.
That's great.
And that does make it fun. It does make it fun, yeah.
So I always ask my guests, who or what, looking back on your life, had a major influence on you, or what or who did?
A couple of people. Probably my mother more than anyone. This was the most even-tempered person I ever met. I can honestly, I don't remember her ever yelling at me. And I understood.
You were just such a good boy.
No. I think I was a handful. And it was that she had this remarkable way. I can remember distinctly something wasn't going right or something, and she maybe said, go look in the mirror. Why should I go look in the mirror? Because that person can be anything they want to be, whenever they want to be. It's really, I mean, it was just that kind of, and I really admire her. I really admire her. She died very young and somewhat tragically, and that's really sad. And then I think my grandfather, her father, he was a dentist, and he helped me finance my college. I borrowed the money from him, paid him back. We made a deal, and without him, I never would have been able to finish school. And he was just a good guy. I mean, just a really.
Well, those were two wonderful role models.
I was real lucky. I was really, you know, life is a little dumb luck, and in my case, I ended up with two really pretty good ones right there.
My last question is, what's the best part of living in Iowa City for you?
You know, I can't put it on any one particular thing, because I think my whole being is community. And community is made up of all sorts of different factions and interests. And the fact that that goes on in a reasonably cordial, reasonably thoughtful fashion. This town has a good sense of community, particularly one that has so much turnover in it. And that's the thing that I kind of enjoy the most. I mean, even when they make you mad, and they do that or did that on the past tense. They don't make me as mad anymore now, because I can fight back. I think that that sense of community is really something that I cherish. Maybe that's why it's 21 years.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you for your service to this community, and thank you for being my guest on One of a Kind.
Thank you very much.
My guest on One of a Kind has been Steve Atkins. After serving as city manager for 21 years, he retired in August of 2007. Words used to describe my guest are respectful, professional, a strategic thinker, wise, hardworking, and a mentor. Steve Atkins is one of a kind.